Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your girl Mitzi, and this is Mitzi. Let's think about it. Today we are thinking about marriage advice. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is the thinker that we are thinking about with Monica here, who's going to really help us think about this in a whole new way. So thank you so much, Monica, for coming onto my show, sharing your time, your perspective with me. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with me. So I thank you for that. So let's dive right in, right? When you hear the words marriage advice, what does that necessarily make you think about?
Ooh, my first thought is bad marriage advice. I mean, I wrote an entire book about it for basically for my oldest son. He announced that he had met the girl of his dreams and that he wanted to get married. And I remember just feeling a sense of panic, like, oh my goodness, they are going to get so much bad marriage advice. And so I sat down to write him a little love note, and it turned into a book, and it's really, really fun.
Oh, that is so sweet. You were just there helping out your son and just trying to be like, you know what? Let me just help you before the world tells you how to do everything the opposite direction. So it's like, so what is the top three advices that you gave your son then?
So important. Well, the good marriage advice, there is good marriage advice. And so I'll give you the top three good ones, and then you want to
Yeah.
talk about the
Yeah.
top three bad ones. Is that
Yeah.
okay? My first advice would be to, if you're religious, pray together. If you're not, connect. So make sure that there's not a day that goes by that you don't connect in some way with each other and with some sort of higher power that's bigger than you. I think that's one of the best things I can tell newlywed couples. It's just so important to stay connected. Number two, it's all about communication. So basically, the through line of my book, Bad Marriage Advice, is if it engenders lazy communication, then it's not good advice. If it stretches you, if you're seeking to understand and communicate and speak up about the things that are important to you, then it's good advice. And then the third is absolutely know when to ask for help. So I would say my actual number one piece of advice for new couples is to get in to see, and I will say an RLT, a relational life trained therapist or coach, and just establish yourselves. So, what a couple of meetings with someone like me would do for a young couple, even if you're not in distress yet, right? You're like it's still in that butterfly phase. You think each other is the best thing that could have ever happened in the world, and what could possibly go wrong. What a good coach will do is help you understand your relational dynamics. Like, where do you go, when you get upset? Do you go one up? Do you tend to go one down? Are you walled off or boundaryless? What maybe is some trauma that could get in the way? What are your losing strategies? What questions do you have about sex, money, communication? And then they'll give you some really good tools for repair and making requests of each other, learning how to stand up to each other with loving power. Those types of things are really great for setting the foundation. And not only that, but when you do hit those bumps in the road, you're already established with somebody who understands you individually, understands how your relationship works, and can get you through and over those bumps with, relatively less effort than, trying to muscle through it on your own for years.
Oh yes, I think that's great advice, and I most definitely see how that can also be some bad advice as well, because people don't realize like when you're married, it's just you two, you know what I mean? And you gotta
Yeah.
have that communication. You gotta be able to connect in a way that you can understand each other. And when you don't have that person in the middle, just like being like, hey, I see what you're saying and I see what you're saying, but you guys are not seeing what you guys are both saying. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Like having
Right.
that outside source truly does bring things into perspective because we can be in our mind so much and so much that we assume that the other person that we're married to or with is has that telepathy. You know what I mean? Just because we've been together for so long or we're in love or whatever, it doesn't necessarily mean that we have that telepathic waves of just I should just know or you should just know. Like that's not a thing, you know what I mean? Like people really do need to connect in a way and have that person to really be able to provide that understanding because when those waves come, ooh, those storms will come. You need to
Right.
have that stamina, you know what I mean? So I guess it leads me to my question. Have you ever got like what's the worst advice that you've ever gotten in your marriage for your marriage when you were first starting out?
So much bad advice. I mean, the book includes 15 different pieces of bad advice. And what you were talking about, this idea that if they loved you, they would just know what you're thinking or know what you need or know how to help you. That's actually chapter 3 of the book. And so I do a whole chapter on like it doesn't matter how much they love you, how well they know you, how long you've been together, they're not going to be able to read your mind. That is not like any type of indication of how much somebody loves you. And so
Right.
learn how to speak up, learn how to ask for the things that you want and need. Don't just expect your partner to know.
Mhm.
So that's so important. And I would say that that was bad advice that I was kind of operating under. I was kind of like, I thought, once I met Prince Charming, it was going to just be like a fairy tale and he would just know how to help me. Like, why? Like, I'm not that complicated, right? But, nobody is a mind reader. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what makes communication so important. But I would say probably the most detrimental piece of advice, and I remember so clearly standing in the line greeting the wedding guests and an older couple that we really looked up to, respected. They were very happily married, been married for a very long time. And that's what usually happens is I remember they went through the line and they were like, remember, don't go to bed angry. And I was like, okay, I'm on it. And, for the first several years of marriage, I can't tell you how much sleep I lost, just spiraling into the abyss because we would be grumpy with each other late at night. We were irritable, it was like quick triggers. And my husband would be like, I'm done with this conversation. It's not going anywhere. I'm going to bed. And here I am, like, no, you
Yeah.
can't go to bed. I'm so upset. And so I would like sit on my side of the bed and just like sob loudly, hoping that he would like wake up and just want to comfort me. Or I'd, like jostle him awake and be like, don't you remember we can't go to bed angry? And, over the years, I've just learned, wow. But really, I had to do a lot of introspection. Like, why is this so hard? I mean, yes, somebody gave us that marriage advice, but for me, with like lots of abandonment issues from my childhood, I would feel very abandoned. Like, oh my gosh, he's going to wake up and be like, this is too much trouble. I'm out of here, right? Like, I felt like it was going to
Yeah.
get worse overnight.
Yeah,
And
that's
the
true.
reality is when I could communicate this to him, when I could communicate my fear, like I don't, it makes me so nervous when you can go to bed and I'm upset and like you don't care and this is how I feel. And he was like, that's not it at all. Like I'm not going anywhere. I just like I don't think we're gonna have a good effective conversation late at night. I mean, he was like very wise in this. And I was like, oh, okay, you're right. And I'm like, so what if you just said, I love you. I'm not going anywhere, but I gotta get some sleep and let's revisit this in the morning. And
Yeah.
what happened was amazing because him saying that would allow me to kind of settle down my nervous system enough that I could go to sleep and always he wakes up before me and he would roll over, put his arm around me, and say, I am so sorry. I was really tired last night. I disrespected you. I apologize. And I was like, yeah, cool. And so if we needed to talk about it further, we would. But a lot of times it was just like, you know what? We were tired. We were done for the day. We just needed to get some sleep.
Well, absolutely. To be honest, I've always thought of that as the worst advice because I mean, you're tired. You already had a long day. You're already stressed out. You're already overstimulated. And now you want me to stay up till the crack of dawn to continue on this conversation? Like, no. And like for those people that chase after the other person when they run away or they just don't want to be talk about it anymore and they're like, no, you come back here. You come to talk to me. Like, no, like don't do that either. Like, I am not one of those people. Like, I'm the one that like, go ahead, sleep on it. Because when you sleep sleep on it. I'm gonna sleep on it and I'm gonna pray on it and I'm gonna give it to God and God's gonna give you a dream or God's gonna talk to you and then in the morning or in the next day or after work or whatever you finally get the understanding and the notification, you will finally realize like, you know what? It wasn't even that big of a deal. Or you know what?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And exactly like you said. So it's like I think it's the best is just be patient with one another. You know what I mean? Give each other that grace and just be open with that communication because you being honest, like, hey, this is how it makes me feel. This is how it puts me. This is my how where my state of mind is leading. Like, oh, that right there is so honest and so vulnerable. And I feel like if you can't be that way with your significant other in that marriage, then what's the real point of really being in that relationship? You know what I mean? So I guess it leads me to my next question. How important to you do you think being vulnerable with your spouse is?
So important. So important. And the reality is being curious and vulnerable are literally the most important ingredients. I think the essential ingredients, like you can't make cookies without sugar and flour and butter. I mean, you can make some substitutions, but you can't substitute curiosity and vulnerability if you want to create a beautiful life together. And it is hard for a lot of people to be vulnerable. Like we say we want to be seen, we say we want intimacy, but it's actually very difficult for most of us, especially, when we grew up in families where we had to defend ourselves, we had a critical, parent or, where there was a danger of losing love. For me, that was very prevalent in my childhood. It was like, man, if you make a mistake, love just gets pulled away from you, right? And so for me to be vulnerable took a lot of courage for me. But yeah, I mean, there are people that can help. There's, things that you can explore and discover about yourself, but being vulnerable is absolutely essential to intimacy and connection.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's a very valid point. And I think it leads me to my next question. Like, how important would you say is our self-talk, even in a marriage? You know what I mean? I mean, does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, marriage, so a big myth that I talk about is, this idea of becoming one, like you're all of a sudden two halves of a whole or something. And it's this like Jerry Maguire idea of you complete me, right? Like you've got to have a really strong sense of self. If you want to have a strong relationship, you've got to have a strong sense of yourself and who you are. One of my favorite movies that on this topic that I love to suggest that couples watch together is The Runaway Bride with Richard Gere and Julia Roberts. It's so good, but it really does a good job of bringing out this concept of self-abandonment. So I think the temptation in a lot of us to create a really good relationship is to kind of abandon parts of ourselves. Like, oh, it doesn't really matter. I like all kinds of eggs. So whatever your favorite kind of egg is my favorite kind of egg. Or, however you like my hair is how I'll wear it. Or, we abandon ourselves. We
Yeah.
think my opinions aren't as important, right? That self-talk. Like, maybe you got that wrong. Maybe you should just, agree to keep the peace or whatever it is, whatever that self-talk
Yeah.
is. The stronger you can be in yourself, the stronger you're going to make that relationship. And I like to explain this in like a math concept. So I'm like a very like left brain, like I like right and wrong answers, which is not great. I definitely had to like work on that. But for those of you who love math problems, if you think about relationships in terms of multiplication, if one of you or both of you is not showing up fully, meaning like you're scared to express your opinions, you kind of stuff your feelings down, you're like, oh, I just maybe that doesn't matter. I just want to make sure that I'm keeping the peace or whatever it is. If you're showing up as a fraction, you have two fractions, you get even less of a fraction, right? What if you have
Yeah.
one person that's showing up fully, like maybe they're kind of the dominant one in the relationship, and you're only showing up halfway? You're still only half of a relationship. But if you have two strong holes, like a one and a one, then you can be one, right? You
Yeah.
get one times one is a really strong one.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Oh my goodness, I love that analogy. That's the best way I've ever heard it because when you put it in that sense, you can really think about, okay, and reflect back. Like how many times did I see my relationships fail because I stepped back or I wasn't being honest and I was allowing this merging to happen in a matter that wasn't supposed to happen.
Mhm.
And we are really that's really something that we really don't think about because the relationships that truly last, the relationships that find joy, the relationships that they really feel like, oh, I married my best friend and there's joy every day when I wake up and every day when I go to sleep. I mean, yeah, there's going to be hiccups here and there, but you know how to handle them because you have that sense of understanding. You know what I mean? You have that strength within you that even if this one if he didn't make up his whatever for the day, it's okay because I got you. You know what I mean? And I feel like
Yes.
this concept of 50-50 is so irritating because it's like you have to put your 100 even if the other person's not putting their 100 because at the end of the day it comes to your character. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Mhm.
And that's what somebody falls in love with. You know what I mean? Is that character. And why would you just throw it away as soon as you say I do? Like I do, but I no longer am that person you once knew. Like no, come back to me. This is why I love you. You know what I mean? So it really does put it into a sense like we really have to realize like what we do, how we talk to ourselves, how we show up in the relationship really does matter. Goodness gracious. So I guess my next question is why do you think marriages fail?
Hmm. Well, you're touching on a topic that's really important and overarching in our relationships, and that is making room for both individuals in the marriage. And then if you have kids, making room for them as well. Like you want to be able to make room in the relationship for everyone to be who they are. And that includes making mistakes and being imperfect and changing their mind and all of those things. A lot of the couples that I see are actually couples who come to me and they're like, my partner's changed. like, like, duh, right? Like they're no longer the person I married. Yeah, they're not even the person they were yesterday because they've learned things, they've had experiences, they've changed their mind. Like they're growing, they're evolving, and that's what life is about, right? But a lot of my couples, one or both of them is going through a faith transition, or they want to change jobs, or if they've realized something isn't working for them, or it's a mom that wants to go back to work and like pursue her dreams, right? And so it's tantamount. It's really important that you learn how to make room for both individuals to become the best version of themselves. And that means they're going to disagree with you. They're going to change their minds. They're not going to be the same person you married. They're going to, they might change big parts of themselves, like values or goals or dreams or ambitions, right? And it's about learning how to navigate that together. It's my husband and I don't feel like we could have come from more opposite backgrounds. We were raised with different religions. We were raised in different parts of the country. We were raised by very different, parents, in different circumstances. He was super, super poor until about high school, where, his dad started making some money. I was really, really well off until high school. My parents got a divorce and then we had nothing. So, I mean, so many things we are opposite. We have different perspectives. And now when it comes to things like as important as religion, we fall on very different ends of the spectrum when we talk about certain things, but we love and respect and we trust each other, right? And so we just get really curious about what are you experiencing? What are you learning? How are you evolving? What's exciting to you? And we've been able to raise our children and create a life that we love together, even though we're so different and we have different goals than we're very different.
Oh, I love that. I love that because it just shows that just because you're different doesn't mean that you guys can't be together and it doesn't take away from who you are. You know what I mean? Because the foundation is love. And then the
Hmm.
foundation after that is respect.
Hmm.
And then after that is understanding. And
Hmm.
then after that is acceptance. You know what I mean? And it just goes up and up and up from there. And
Yeah,
it's
so good.
obviously it's going to be subjective for every person because everybody's relationship is different, but the essence is that you're looking for the long term. You know what I mean? You want to do that. I say I do, and I'm never going to go out again. You know what I mean? I'm not out here fishing for any more fish. Like, you're my fish. We're going to make this work. You know what I mean? Like, it's one
Right.
of those when you decide to say, I do, you decide that you want to marry that person, you're really deciding wholeheartedly that this will be for the long run. And you got to expect your mind is going to change, your goals are going to change, you're going to evolve with time, they're going to evolve when you have kids, you're going to evolve once they're out of the nest, they're going to evolve with no matter how much life throws at you. But it's just being able to stand your ground and know that at the end of the day, I still love you and you still love me, and that's all that matters. You know what I mean? And I think,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, I wish people can just get that out of this whole entire conversation. But it sucks that time is catching up to us, because I didn't even realize how much time already passed by. And it's like, no, come back. But what can be some lasting words that you can truly leave us off with to keep on thinking?
Yeah, I think actively choosing one another, even when it's tricky, is really and knowing when to ask for help. It's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of commitment. So, if you're struggling, if you feel like you're sacrificing a lot, if you feel like you're not getting along, if you feel like you're facing this insurmountable challenge, don't settle for mediocrity. Don't settle for a marriage that's less than what you deserve, right? There's definite people that can help you. And one of the things I say is you can't see the label from the inside of the bottle. And so we were kind of talking about this towards the beginning. You mentioned it, is that, it's really hard to get outside of the dynamic of your marriage because you're in it. And so if you find a neutral third party that can be, a cheerleader for the marriage, then you really can they can help you kind of see the things that you can't see, the impact that you're having that you don't understand or know about. And so, yeah, I would just really, and just in closing, say, if you need help, reach out and ask for it.
Exactly, exactly. Because having that third party perspective provides you something that we're missing. You know what I mean? Like, we're doing the puzzle of life together, and we don't realize we're missing that piece because it's over there and it's flipped over, and you don't even realize it's part of your puzzle. You know what I mean? But then somebody who comes in is like, oh, but isn't that a puzzle piece over there? And they're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe it. You know what I mean? And it makes everything makes more sense. So yes, asking for help, just being honest. You know what I mean? And just not being afraid. Like, there's really no judgment when you find that person that who really wants the best for you. There's no judgment. It's just about, okay, let's make this work, let's figure it out
Working
together.
as a team. Yeah.
Exactly, working as a team, as that dynamic. Oh my goodness, people really do need to think about this, and I thank you for providing your insight, providing your heart into this, because I truly do appreciate this, because I could feel it, I sense it, I know it. You know what I mean? It's there.
Thanks for
Boom
having
boom.
me.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you guys enjoyed this conversation, because how could you not, with all of these great knowledge bucket nuggets that came out, it truly does make you really think. And if you want to know more about Monica and what she has to offer the world, please check her out. I have access to her website on the audio. Just click on it in YouTube, in the description. Boop, just click on it. It goes directly to her website that has so much great content, access to her book, just so that you can continue on thinking, ladies and gentlemen. Don't do yourself a disjustice by stop thinking. You do yourself disservice by continue on thinking. So, with that being said, always, always, always keep thinking, y'all. Bye.